I think getting into the world of jewelry wasn't really an active choice. It was just a series of actions that led towards something. Mom had her own company by then. So she brought in like the marketing expertise, the business acumen. I brought in the design skills and like the karigars, the artisans, this side of it. The way the finances are handled by Sanjay over here, it's impossible for
How
either
awkward
of us
is
to
it
do
to
it.
call your dad Sanjay?
I was
Or
just
have
like,
you
dude, I
gotten
sound
used
like a
to it?
child if I'm like just calling them mom and dad. So I'm just like going to the names now. When you're designing, you're not only creating art that is something for you, it's something that has a bigger message, you know. The more people working with you, you kind of realize it's not one person's vision taking this company through, and that kind of humbles you a little bit because it's not just you and your design.
Yeah.
It's also like the 20 pairs of hands that make a piece. Jigsaw was like a little oasis for like starving, like thirsty people who like just came to it, and then they're like just like, oh wow, like we found heaven now. Because it's like, you know, like how many solo people trying to figure out like this whole entrepreneurial world on their own, and then they come together and you're like, hey, we're not alone, like, you know.
I asked him, what is the number one learning from your 20 years in business? And he said one thing: give your team responsibility before they're ready.
3, 2, 1, Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you have imagined.
And the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work.
Courage is not doing things in the absence of fear. Courage is doing things despite the fear.
Growth comes from consistent action.
And you're realizing, hey, I'm not the only one with these problems.
Welcome to another episode of BYOB. We have Dhwani Bansal with us. I'm very excited. Thanks, Dhwani.
Thanks for having me.
I want to start by making you feel really comfortable and relaxed, and therefore putting you right on the spot and asking you to give us, you know, in those classic dinner party situations where you're meeting a bunch of your friends who don't know you, and the question you're most often asked is, oh, hi, I'm Dhwani, and then the classic question is, so what do you do? So what is currently your response to the what do you do question?
I'm a jewelry designer and entrepreneur, struggling through the way of trying to describe what I do in like 5 words.
I think that's pretty strong, no? That's pretty simple. And what's the most classic follow-up question you get at these dinner parties once you explain to people what you do?
It either goes 2 ways. So
Okay.
one is like, oh wow, that's amazing. And the other one's like, okay, what does that mean?
Okay, and so let's go with the little more negative space question. So, okay, what does that mean? What's your classic answer?
So I design jewelry. It's fashion jewelry, like things that I'm wearing. And then typically like do a brush back to kind of just show them something, because visual context is just so much better than just putting it out on like what it is.
Yeah.
And then that gets the conversation rolling.
So, because of what you do, over the last, I don't know, couple of years, do you ever wear any other jewelry? Considering this question is asked, and then people are automatically going to be like, so are you wearing a Dhwani Bansal?
I am a snob.
So you just wear your own
Because
stuff.
I haven't really been much of a jewelry person in general. So now I've started exploring it, and I feel like the best way to start is by exploring your own stuff, because you kind of like get some sort of a connection to it, because there's a reason why you've done it in the first place. So it's been kind of nice to like, it's like getting to know a friend.
Nice.
So just been doing that. But obviously I do also wear other stuff, which is typically either borrowed from my sister or from my mom. So some sort of a sentimental value through those as well.
And what you said is really interesting. You said you weren't really into jewelry, yet that's what you do. And over the last few years, it feels like that's become a big part of your identity. So when did you start exploring the world of jewelry if you weren't into it earlier?
I think getting into the world of jewelry wasn't really an active choice. It was just a series of actions that led towards something.
Okay.
So it started off with going into the space of design specifically, and then like, you know, like exploring the different types. So did a little bit of fashion, some interior, some architecture, and then jewelry just like resonated with me and like how it's made and the craftsmanship that goes into it, not typically in its forms or like how it's worn or explode on the body itself. And then because of the craftsmanship and because of working with it, the detailing is what I really liked. And now it's kind of like spilling over to also enjoying it for what it comes out to be as.
Oh, wow.
So
that's
it's
really
been
cool.
like a kind of a journey over the last 10 years.
That's cool. And so when you were making your decision of what design to go deeper with, did fashion or anything else compete or get close, or was it a very clear, I know jewelry design is my calling? How do you figure that out?
So product was a strong competitor in this, but
Like physical products,
like
I'm
physical,
guessing.
like product design in
Yeah.
general, like, so furniture or interiors, that was a really strong contender. But I think it came down to jewelry because of first of how intricate it is, how small it is, and you can really create it in real time to get something. In product, like the timelines are just way different,
Right.
and you can do prototyping, but not really like going and creating a chair in the first go, as you would say, right? So I think just the instant value and gratification that I got of like being able to create something at a desk was what kind of like tipped the dice over for me.
I know because we know each other as friends as well, outside of the work stuff we've done previously. I know there are two very interesting aspects to your business that I personally want to dig deeper into, and I'm sure there are others that'll come up, but there are two I really want to dig deeper into. Number one is, I think you have got the most interesting type of family business ever.
Yeah.
Okay, so normally when we talk about family business, we talk about how the previous generation has set something up, and then the new generation is coming in but trying to add their own spin to it. That's the typical family business. But would you like to tell us a little bit about how your family business operates? Because I find that really interesting and very inspiring, actually.
I was actually thinking about it on the way here, on like the best ways to put it forward. So it's actually it's really cool because I got into design. That was obviously like something that my parents like pushed me towards as well, because it wasn't about like going into a typical field of like maths or science. It was just like, okay, this is something that's interesting to you, focus on it and take it up. And when one thing started leading to another, it was kind of just emerging that I'm going to become a designer. And mom had her own company by then. So she was very successfully running like this 13-year-old technology company called Verity Technologies right here in Bangalore. And she was kind of getting to the tail end of it. And so then the idea just started developing that, that she and I could work together, because it's like we kind of got each other really well and we were like in sync. So she brought in like the marketing expertise, the business acumen. I brought in the design skills and like the karigars, the artisans, this side of it. And then it just made sense because this is a way that we not only could like learn off each other, but also like spend time together. Because like, like I was like 22, 23 at that point. And it's like marriage is going to be on the cards, moving is going to be on the cards. I'd already spent 7 years away. So it was just kind of like many ways in which it's like, it'd be really cool to just do something together. Yeah. And dad was always like the silent like partner in this, because he was always the investor right from the beginning. But that was it. And then when I started growing, it kind of just became like he came on as CEO as well. And mom took over the director of marketing title. I was director of design. So it kind of became like an inverted family business, which is kind of like cool because it's like very progressive of them, I would think, to open themselves up to a new dimension or to a new field altogether that they've not really explored till now, and to kind of really get in head on, and be really excited about it.
Yeah, I always find it amazing that, because I've never heard of this. At least I can't think of examples right now where I've heard of this whole inverted family business, right? What do you feel when you reflect and think about what you've built? Not, we'll get into the business side, but the fact that you've built something where the family sort of comes together, how do you feel about that, and how jealous are your sisters?
Hard question. I love it. I absolutely love what I'm doing. So the sisters, it's good. I think it's like they are a little jealous, but then they're also okay with it because it's like they get to know a lot of the family drama that's happening here. So on those days, they're great. Like, I'm on the sideline. I don't need to be on the firing line of this. Yeah. But yeah, it goes both ways. So it's like super chill. But fun fact, a lot of fashion houses are actually inverted family businesses. For example, like Sabyasachi's parents help him with all of his financing. Anamika Khanna's parents take care of all of that. It's just like a thing because that's where like you don't have any misconceptions, like parents are like the strongest protectors when it comes to all of these things. So it just really works out.
Oh, wow, cool. I really had no idea it was like this prevalent thing that happens in a particular space.
Didn't really realize it till we got into it. And then, the more you read about it, then it kind of makes sense because I think creativity needs so much space to flourish in. And the moment you get in external investors or you get in a partner that you don't really completely trust, that could become a bit of a a tight ground to play on, you know?
Yeah.
So I think this way it just helps you be who you are.
Okay, all of that is really nice and sweet. Now, can you tell me about the drama your sisters were talking about? So, what happens when you disagree with your parents who have strong roles within the business, right? So, how does that operate? And if it gets too conceptual, you can tell us about the last bit of drama that you had or the last disagreement.
So final say, I think they've been very gracious enough to be like, final say is mine.
Okay.
But also that comes with a rider of like, we have experience, you know? Like there is no way I could go out and hire a person of my dad's caliber, of my mom's caliber, if I was like setting up this company at this point, and if they were not related to me. So I think there is a lot of merit. So it's kind of, for me, it's like getting a free MBA program over here, because it's like you're learning on the job, you're like doing your thing. So it's pretty cool. And I think because our divisions are different, we are very complementary to each other. We're not really overstepping too much on each other's toes, so which I think really helps. Because the way the finances are handled by Sanjay over here, it's impossible for
How
either
awkward
of us
is
to
it
do
to call your dad Sanjay?
I was
Or
just
have
like,
you
dude, I
gotten
sound
used
like a
to it?
child if I'm like just calling them mom and dad. So I'm just like going to the names now. So it's gonna be Anu and Sanjay for the rest of the conversation.
I know you've called out its separation of roles, etc. Are you actually telling me there are no disagreements that go beyond like a 5-minute chat?
Yeah, because we'll disperse. Because
That's pretty good.
we disperse, we'll come back to it with like clear heads at some point. And the fact that all of us are not really operating from the same studio really helps. Because the moment there is some distance in it, we're not really like in each other's physical spaces as much as well, which I think is a very good sign.
Which segues beautifully to the second part that I find very interesting about your business, which is that you started, of course, when you were based in Bangalore. And at which point I think your raw materials, your karigars, etc., you worked with were from Jaipur primarily. Is that correct? So it was anyway Bangalore, and then you had to do work at Jaipur. Now you've shifted to Boston about a year ago. Are my timelines right?
2 years now.
Oh man, okay, I'm bad with time. Sorry. Okay, over two years ago you shifted to Boston.
Yeah.
So the second part I find very interesting about your business is how have you managed that transition from being Bangalore based to being Boston based, but running a business that I guess initially was very India focused, but now has become international. Can you tell us a little bit about, to start with, the time of the shift from Bangalore to Boston? What was that like? Was it tough? Was it smooth? How did that transition work?
So again, I think it's like, I know it sounds repetitive, but it kind of comes back to the same point where it wasn't an active choice. It was just like a bunch of factors leading to something else.
Sure.
So I did move to Boston because it was a great business decision. It was actually a personal one that led me over there. And it was just kind of like a beautiful start because we had always been working internationally because I had roots in London because that's where I studied.
Right.
So we had like trade events going on there, working with stores, doing events and all those kind of things. So this kind of just felt like a natural progression of the business moving forward as well. And this was when my dad decided to come to the forefront because there was like a huge gap opening because we were done with the startup phase. We were kind of moving into the scaling up phase and we needed a strong hand to kind of take charge of like the backbone of the company, which is essentially like all the production, all the like all the manufacturing, like dealing with all of these cross-country situations and stuff like that, you know. And so the transition was like on the personal level, it was beautiful because there was like so many new beginnings happening. So even on work front, it was like that. And then it took some time to like get set into it because the moment you're operating from a new country, it's like a new ball game altogether, right? Because like rules are different, the way things are done are different. So I think taking some time out to like really like figure that bit out was, I think, really nice because it gives you like a low time to like gauge the market with clarity as well.
So did you pause the business as it was running for a certain amount of time till you got settled there, or was the business running as normal? And
the business was running fine because the rest of the team was here. Our studio is based in Bangalore and the two partners were here.
Right.
So that kept going on and I was designing remotely because COVID really helped also because everything went remote after that point within those 2 years. So by then, like, you know, I was able to like get on a WhatsApp call with like my artisan in Jaipur and like share designs and get it done.
Right.
So that was like really
Which
cool.
might not have happened if they didn't accept it as a reality, if not for COVID, right?
Exactly,
I'm guessing it
yeah.
would have been
So
harder.
COVID was generally like, it was like a little like jump, you know, it's like everyone's okay with digital work and like that really helped. And once we kind of got into the legalities, all of that got done. it was like, again, like, how we started in Bangalore, it was kind of coming back to that like framework and be like, okay, this is what we started with. Why don't we replicate that and try it out over there and then see how it goes? And then one thing led to another. And instead of getting physical store signups that we were doing here, it was more of like online platforms over there. And that was nerve-wracking because it's like you don't know whether it's going to work, right? It's the first time you're going into a new market. You've been designing for a certain crowd, for a certain type, for a certain, like, I don't know, like for Indians, it's like, bigger pieces, bolder designs. It's more for weddings, festivities.
Yeah.
There is a cultural aspect to it, which is like very strong. And then to take that South Asian culture and put it into a very Western field, it's like, it could work, it couldn't work. And then when it did take off, it's like South Asians have a mark here, and I think that was really exciting because being part of that diaspora there.
Are your clients over there, the ones who buy it who are based in the US, are they of South Asian descent over there, or are they from like the US as well that are picking up these big bold pieces?
It's from everywhere actually.
That's
it's
cool.
Really cool because it's like they are from the US, they're also a lot from the UK. And I think if you go by names and stuff, I think only about like 20 to 30% are South Asian.
Oh, wow.
So that's been quite interesting because it's like we kind of like, put on blinders on our own because we don't really know what to expect and we play it safe.
Yeah.
But it's been like once you go out there and you kind of see it for what it is, that's quite nice.
That's really exciting because it sounds like you're sort of exporting our culture a little bit, right? Because if you're able to get them to get excited about the big bold pieces, your designs, things like that, then it feels like you're connecting them to our culture in a certain way. I don't know if they feel the same way, but that's how, I'm seeing it.
That like very cliched saying, right? It's like you can take an Indian out of India, but you cannot take India out of the Indian kind of a thing.
Yeah.
We'd always seen that with food. And I feel like that's kind of like spilling over to a lifestyle as well, which is what we're kind of living in. So it's very fun.
I know this is like a lot of good stuff happening with you sort of being there. But what's been the toughest aspect of moving your business or, the place? I mean, you also lived and grew up here. I'm guessing had your roots here as well when you started the business, despite, studying in London for a bit. What's been the challenging aspect of going to Boston, building the business over there for you as an entrepreneur?
I think the isolation. Because as entrepreneurs, you're anyway typically isolated until you have a community like Jigsaw that kind of brings in people as well. Because I think solopreneurs are which I'm pretty sure everyone that you would have chatted with over this thing, right? They would all have the same thing. But I think it's isolating because it's like you're doing all of these things, but they're coming into fruition at different times. And you don't really have a team to sound it off in person. Like you have everything, but not really around you. And then it's like a different land, a different culture, a different city. So it's all very new and it's very uprooting, but it's also kind of liberating. So it's like I think you kind of see it for what it is, and then if I don't know, I was able to I was really lucky because I moved there with a partner. I had my sister in the same city as well, and then a lot of friends. So I think by over time, it's like you kind of start seeing the space for what it is. But I think the isolation was what was the most challenging.
And how are you navigating that isolation now? Is it primarily with the support system of friends and your partner and stuff like that you lean on quite a bit?
On one side of it, yes. But then also because we've had 2 years of work experience around there, there's a work community that's building up, which has also been really helpful because it's cool. You're getting inroads into the design culture there or the jewelry culture or just even fashion, and it's been great because you get to explore New York on a weekend, just for work, which is it's really cool because you always hear of the Big Apple as being the place, and then going and seeing it, it's it is.
Yeah.
It's huge.
It's also very messy and loud.
Very dirty.
Yeah, I know. It's also very dirty.
But it's also beautiful.
Yeah, I know. It's this weird, I don't know how to explain it, right? It's because you've seen it in every movie ever. So it's got this grand feeling. So when you see all of the buildings and stuff, and then when you look down and you look at the road, you're like, wait, where am I?
So you just walk looking up.
Looking up.
You just look up.
That's why everybody in New York is dreaming, right? Because nobody's looking at the reality.
And then and it's so great because you've seen it in pretty much every TV show or every movie, right? And so it's always a landmark. It's hey, this is where this guy did this. And it's It's really cool. It's like you're part of a movie there.
So are you finding quite a bit of time and opportunity over there to travel to places like New York, etc.? Is work allowing or creating opportunities to travel further? Or is it based primarily in Boston and then through the digital world you're traveling around?
So I think right now it's definitely the second one, but hoping to move it to the first one.
Oh, cool.
Because I think there's a lot of like realities of life that kind of come in as well. Because as like two people who are just starting off, it's like traveling around the East Coast is great, but traveling to the West Coast is pretty much the same as traveling to Europe in terms of like time, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's kind of like a toss-up between, do you want to go to California or do you want to go to Portugal?
Yeah,
Like,
I know my answer, but that's fine.
I think I'll choose Portugal. So
Same.
Are you on the same page?
Yeah, for sure. Let's rewind a little bit. We know about what's happening with the business right now. We know about how you stumbled into the world of jewelry design, and we know how your family is involved in it as well. I want to rewind a little bit and really talk about your first year as an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Because I always find it really interesting to see how creatives make that transition from creative to creative entrepreneur. And the first year seems to be that on steroids, right? It's really fast. There's no opportunities. It's really hard. So tell me a little bit about that first year and when you decided this is what you're going to get into and you're going to do jewelry design. Like literally, what were the first couple of things you were doing to say, okay, cool, I guess I'm setting up a business now. So what did you actually do?
So I had taken a gap year in college between my third and fourth year to get some work experience. And I spent that year in Jaipur. And that turned out to be one of those very phenomenal experiences where it was just like a great experience just being in India, but not being at home and experiencing this whole culture from where we like kind of come from, like, you know, in terms of like being Marwadis or something. You've always heard of it, but never really experienced that. So that was all of it. So when I started my business like a year later, it was kind of like, okay, a great opportunity to go and spend time in Jaipur again.
Nice.
So it was kind of just like the magic of that, you know, and it was in the winter. So spending time with like friends and family and like exploring the city. So it just kind of took it as a long adventure.
Nice.
And then it was like, I'm doing what I love.
Yeah.
I was like kind of oblivious to a business plan or anything. Because till the first collection came out, it's like you're not really sure what's going to
I guess
like...
it doesn't feel that real also, right?
No.
Till you create something that you're ready to sell or
Yeah, and
share
then it's
with
like,
the
you know,
world.
you're doing like pricing or you're doing like, I don't know, like quality checks. And it's like you're just trying to make it as beautiful as you need it to be or as like what you need it to be as. And then you're like, you put it out there. It's like, because you have no context, right? You've never had someone come and try out a piece. You've never had a first criticism. You've never had any of them. So I think till all of that happens, it's like you're in like this little bubble because it's just like, it's really fun. And I was working with like some of my closest friends because like she was a fashion designer. And so we did our first exhibition together. So it was just like it was a party, you know. It was just like coming together and like people are going to come to us and they want to buy our stuff. And it was like really cool.
That's pretty cool. When was the first time you realized along this journey, wait a minute, the designing side is one side and the business side is another side? So when was that first realization?
I think it'd been like creeping up over time, but genuinely I felt it in 2023.
Okay. Oh, wow.
It was like
I'm looking at my calendar.
Yeah,
like that
like
is
right
like
now, like
a
literally
month
last
ago.
year. Yeah. Because I think that's when you realize that when you're designing, you're not only creating art that is something for you, it's something that has a bigger message, you know. It's something that should stand for itself, but it should also be something that is accessible to people or something that goes beyond just what you want it to be. It has to like take in a lot more. It has to take in like market realities. It has to take in the fact that you know what you stand for, like in terms of like, yes, it's made in India, yes, it's handcrafted, but that does not make it cheap, you know what I mean? Because India is always known for everything being like super easily available over here, or there's always a lot of options. And I think that's when you draw the line on like, okay, I need it to be accessible luxury where it should stand for quality craftsmanship and the heritage roots of India, but in a very modern way. So the moment you give it an identity beyond just the art, it kind of starts taking on this other form of itself. And that's when you realize that business and design are two different things, because then you're also doing it to make money, yes, but you're also trying to have the integrity of the art in place. And I think until like this was the switch, because Boston was where the switch happened, because you kind of moved out of your comfort zone of just being in like the Indian markets, and like you're catering to a whole global community now. And that's when you kind of hits you, okay, like you need to find a balance between business and designing.
Like it sounds a bit overwhelming, right? Because you're, at least to me, okay, from the outside, it sounds overwhelming to go, okay, now my art has to have meaning, it's got to have balance, it's got to be commercially viable, it's got to be all of these things. So how do you relate to stuff like this? Do you feel that pressure, or does it flow for you? How do you process stuff like this? Because this is big stuff, right? It's beyond just a cool piece of jewelry you made now. Like it's gone beyond that.
Yeah.
So how do you process that or come to terms with it?
I think when we were making, like when you just make a few pieces, it's kind of like great to have it like super personal. And when there was so what happened for me was a collection of mine didn't really do as well. Okay. And when you face failure with a collection for the first time, that's when there is a perspective shift, because you learn a lot from it.
Sure.
But it's also like, you have to take it in your stride, but you also have those days where you're like, why hasn't it
it's
worked?
also just painful, right?
Because it's so beautiful. Like, it's like your baby that's just gone out of the world, and it's like, it's just not seen success or like whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then that's why when I came out with my latest one, which is called White Space, I very consciously decided to not give it any personal meaning and kind of to just...
Is it the first time you've done something like that?
Yeah, so it's like you're creating
That's
something that means something, but it's also like there's a lot of like presence there, but there's also a lot of emptiness. Giving it the narrative that you could put in your own context in there as well. Like it's not something that's handed over to you by me. It's something that, hey, this is yours.
Yeah.
Like take it and make it yours.
That's cool.
And I think that kind of a paradigm shift is what kind of led to like the distinction happening. And then you kind of realize that it's opening up a playground for exploration. It's opening up a playground for like trying out new things. Like by like keeping it a little impersonal or by moving it away from you, it's actually opening up a whole new dimension, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And I think it's like, I'm willing to bet that that's the mindset that's going to allow you to really flourish, because there are so many people who I know, it's very tough, very, very difficult to separate yourself from what you create. So I know a lot of designers, whether it's jewelry, fashion, or anything else, it's very hard for them to let go of themselves when they are putting it out there. And when they have to, they think of it as selling out as opposed to exploration playground. Right. And so that I think I'm guessing that attitude is that's what's going to separate it, because you're coming from a far more optimistic place about, what you're doing, which is really cool.
Yeah, because I feel like I know what you mean, because the selling out has obviously always been a thing where it's like you shouldn't become too commercial as opposed to like your artistic thing.
Yeah.
Correct. But I feel like there is no harm in owning money.
Yeah, I was just going to say money is nice, no? And if other people like it, then that's great. You're creating art that other people can actually use.
Like, and maybe like, when I'm like rich enough to a point where it's like, yeah, I can create art for art itself, or like, do something where it's like one piece, something is really for me and it doesn't really matter if someone likes it or not.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think I would like to like make that as a side thing rather than make my whole business depend on it.
Got it.
Because also the more like when you have more people coming in, the more people working with you, you kind of realize it's not one person's vision taking this company through.
Yeah.
It's a lot of minds. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of people kind of pulling it through,
Yeah.
and that kind of humbles you a little bit, because it's not just you and your design.
Yeah.
It's also like the 20 pairs of hands that make a piece, or like the 20 pairs of hands that are like correcting it, QCing it, packing it, putting it out. So I think it's kind of like becoming more enveloping of everyone else around as well.
It really sounds like you're at a place where the business is beyond you at the moment. And that's actually really beautiful to get, I think, an artistic business to that stage, because a lot of people really, really struggle with that, right?
That's really nicely put.
Yeah.
Like I never thought about it that way, but it's so right.
Oh, great.
That's
okay,
awesome.
I'm good. Every now and then I, have a few lines.
See, this is why I just came to you in the first place.
Now that we've talked about a lot of serious, deep things, let's switch it up a little bit. We have a segment we call Jaldi with Jigsaw, where we ask you silly rapid fire questions.
Oh my God.
So we will dial down all of the philosophical stuff to zero and just go through some rapid fire questions before I get to, I'm sure, a few more
Do we
difficulty
have a
points.
rapid fire hamper as
Yes,
well?
of course we
Oh,
do.
wow.
Yeah, you get a free glass of water right
Oh
after
my
this,
god.
just for you.
Karjor
Dhwani.
is gonna be so
Just for
sad
you.
about this.
Okay, are you ready for Jaldi or Jigsaw?
Okay, let's do
Okay, I
this.
love that you're drinking water before that. Okay, what's the most adventurous thing on your bucket list?
Skydiving.
What's the most bizarre business idea you've ever heard of?
Collaborating with like Sabyasachi.
Oh, okay. Are you planning to?
I would love to. I think that would be like a dream come true right now.
Hello, if you're listening, please get in touch. Thank you. What's your guilty pleasure movie or TV show to unwind right now?
I can't say that. It's really
Say it.
horrible.
Just say it.
No.
It's just you and me.
Is it though? Is it?
Just share. It's okay. Don't search for an answer that's a better answer than the one you know that's in your
No,
mind.
generally
right
it's like a very like trashy Bollywood movie from like the 90s or something.
now. Huh.
So,
So that's great. That's something to be proud of. So like we're
Sure.
talking Mohabbatein or earlier or crappier?
like Mohabbatein is as trash it gets. Sometimes it's like a Hum Saath Saath Hai situation.
Oh, that's a classic. ABC. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
What's your go-to productivity hack? When you're feeling overwhelmed, what do you do at work?
Take a break.
Okay.
Like
yeah.
go for like a little stroll and then come back to the desk.
If you had to swap your life with any fictional character, whose life would you want?
Harry Potter's.
If you could give your past self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Go with the flow. It'll turn out to be better than you can think.
If you could instantly become an expert in one thing, what would it be?
And I'm flying a plane.
And then
That'd be cool.
skydive out of the plane. Okay. What's your favorite word that you've learned in another language? Swearing is allowed just in case, your mind goes there.
I don't know, gracias? They just sound Spanish. Like
so
Spanish
sweet.
words just sound nice. Like I
Yeah.
don't know what they are.
What's the weirdest combination of two foods that you enjoy?
Papad and nimbu?
Yeah. So Nimbu basically is the
Like
winner.
Papad and nimbu, yeah.
Got it. And finally, define a jigsaw thinker in 3 words.
Smart, empathetic, and adventurous.
Okay, cool. Very nice. You smashed it. You definitely win a free glass of water.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
I really
Congrats.
appreciate this.
We're a bootstrap company. We will not be giving coffee hampers out. Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, just a couple of questions to sort of wind things up. So, one is, I know I'm really bad with time, but a few years ago, we worked together. You were part of the Jigsaw
Yeah.
community. So, can you tell me, now that it's been quite a while, right? It's been a couple of years.
Has it already been that long?
I mean, you said couple of years you went to Boston, so
Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
it's been at
Yeah.
least a couple of years. My question is, I'm very curious to know, what are the one or two things that you learned or started doing when you were at Jigsaw previously that you still sort of carry with you? So what's had a lasting impact?
I think the biggest one would be organization.
Okay.
Like the way we use Slack, or like, the way we went about like, breaking up our tasks and like communicating with the team and stuff. That is something that I've implemented in our organization. So it's kind of like taking a little bit of
That's
Jigsaw
cool.
around. So that's been like really nice. And the other thing was, I think all the friends that we made there.
Yeah.
Like the whole community itself is something like, they're all one call away, which
Yeah.
is great.
Okay, that's really nice. I'm so glad to know that. It's really interesting that, in the community, we go through about like so much business strategy and these other things to do. And I feel like at that point in time, that's always the most impactful stuff. But whenever I ask anybody who's
It's always the
who's
community.
moved on from Jigsaw, maybe after a year and a half, they always talk about, we got great people who we're staying connected to. And you said structure, organization, people say wins for the day, wins for the week,
Correct.
whatever
It's the
different
same
term.
thing. It's just genuinely
It's
the same
always
thing.
the same things that have stuck. But it's really nice to know that you still use it with your teams and stuff. So that's kind of
not
cool.
to sound like really bad about this, but like Jigsaw was like a little oasis for like starving, like thirsty people who like just came to it, and then they're like just like, oh wow, like we found heaven now, because it's like like how many solo people trying to figure out like this whole entrepreneurial world on their own, and then they come together and you're like, hey, we're not alone. Like
Yeah.
I think that was a huge eureka moment in all of our lives.
Yeah. No, I'm so glad you said that. No, I mean, I don't know about the thirsty, hungry oasis stuff.
You totally
But,
When you
but
see
that
it,
solo people aren't alone, right? I think that's
I think the
really
oasis
important.
just came because you're wearing blue, It's
Yeah,
just
I'm
like,
blue all over. Okay, now I have 2 quick questions, final ones. One is, I can't help it that I really like coaching and business
You're
coaching.
very good at it.
Thank you. So I would like to ask you if there's one question or challenge that you would like a perspective on that you are finding challenging right now, what would it be?
Managing a team, because it's so much easier to do work on your own because it's like faster, quicker, more efficient.
I don't know what you're talking about. The team is amazing. But yes, carry on.
But like, when you have someone working right under you and you got to like give them direction for how you would like it to be done.
Yeah.
That, I think, because that's a really big challenge to kind of let go of doing it yourself and like delegating.
So what's the question here?
The question is, how do you balance that out? Or like...
I'll share with you something my dad shared with me like 7-8 years ago. I asked him, what is the number one learning from your 20 years in business? And he said one thing which I think really stuck with me, which is give your team responsibility before they're ready.
Correct.
So instead of waiting to train them up and then say, okay, are they ready to do this? Give them the responsibility and give them an opportunity to surprise you. Because I find that most people who hold on really tightly are holding on and not giving their team an opportunity because they're not sure if they are ready.
Correct.
My perspective is just like you will never be sure if you're ready to be an entrepreneur, you will never be certain if your team member is ready. The only way to know if they're ready is to let them go for it. And they are most likely, if you have your culture right, if you've hired the right people, most often they will surprise you in a really pleasant way. And then you won't have to hold on anymore. So that would be the first thing I sort of put in place. And I think the second thing is, the systems and structure and stuff I'm sure you're doing anyway. But I think one of the things we've been exploring recently at Jigsaw that we're going to go deeper into this year is this idea of building out what the core values of the team are and then having some rituals around
I think that's a really good
idea. I think we've done it informally previously without calling it core values and rituals and things like this. And we've seen really great effects of it. So I think if you're able to be very clear on what the core values of your business are and your team are and build out these rituals, then the fact that you need to let it go will be part of the core value. So if a core value, for example, is we trust each other, then it's very hard for you to live by that core value and not let them have a chance, right? So it gives you like this
I think that is a bigger thing because it's like let them fly kind of thing it makes sense. But I think this core value thing, bringing everyone together on something that everyone kind of believes in or pitches into building, I think that's what's like really nice.
Yeah, I think it makes a big difference. And I have started this journey with the team actually a couple of months ago, and I've already made my first mistake with it. So my first mistake that you shouldn't make is I went in with, here are our core values. And I was like,
instead of building it out with them.
Yeah. And it would have made much more sense to be like, okay, let's build these out together. Because then you buy into it together, right?
Correct.
Instead of me being like, by the way, these are core values to live by. Because that's just mine.
That's such an interesting paradigm shift to have,
Yeah. And I hope it'll be a fun journey.
This is fabulous. See, you always like just come up with some great advice, Rash.
Thanks. It's not like I prepared for that. No, I didn't. Okay. Final question is, for people who are listening and viewing who are interested in following your journey, checking out your amazing products, where should they go?
We have a website. It's dhwanibansal.com. There's also an Instagram page called Dhwani Bansal Official and Facebook, YouTube, everything.
You're still on Facebook?
Meta, right? So it's all together.
Right. So it's there.
It's like a package
by default.
deal. So
Okay, cool.
So essentially all of this. And there's always WhatsApp, which you can get from our Facebook or Instagram or website.
Or YouTube. Or any of them that we just talked about.
Everything just like a little bubble of like online platforms. So
and then people WhatsApp you to ask you more about your products and stuff like that.
Sometimes when I want to have a chat with like someone to get details which they're not really able to find on the website, or if they're not sure if they have like two ideas and they don't really know which one they want to go for, it's easier to like have a chat on the phone or on text. Where it's like, or they can drop by our studio. So we also have a studio in Bangalore, guys. So
that's
just in
very
case,
cool.
If
yes, I will be visiting in a few days. I've invited myself just before.
No, you have already been invited.
Thank you very much for making the time. And I also want to say congratulations for absolutely fucking smashing it. You're doing so amazing. It's really inspiring to watch. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Wouldn't have been possible without you in a lot of ways. So
Okay.
I'm very happy to have
sweet.
met you.
Okay, now classic Indian head nod and we'll wrap this up.
Chalo.
Bye. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. We're Jigsaw Thinking, home of the self-starters. If you're interested in being your own boss, head to jigsawthinking.com or drop us a DM at Jigsaw Thinking on Instagram.